Now here one is when we're going to start talking about body defenses against infection. We'll talk about the innate defenses in this video, and then there will be another video that talks about immunity. So the lymphatic system defends the body against infection by pathogens. So what are pathogens? Pathogens are anything that comes into the body that can lead to a pathology. So it generates a pathology, and these pathogens are known as disease-causing agents, which could be bacteria, viruses, yeast infection, could be worms, parasites. So there are just so many different kinds of pathogens. And pathogens are invading our body every single day. It's not until the pathogen has the ability to multiply without being checked by the immune system. So that's when an infection can occur. The body does have several ways to defend itself. So we have an innate or a non-specific defense. These are very general defenses the body tries to do in order to protect us against different kinds of pathogens, regardless of what's trying to get into the body. If that doesn't work, it'll move on to this more adaptive or specific defense that is also known as immunity. These are more specific. They target specific antigens, and though the adaptive defense is the function of lymphocytes, whether it's T or B lymphocytes. So you kind of want to think as the immune system, kind of like the police, for example, where they try to gather or try to protect us from criminals. Okay, so they have like these very general ways to do that, okay, that will work for most criminals, but it's not until you have that one criminal that uses a very unique way of crime where they would have to now personalize and adapt to that one criminal, and that would be immunity. Okay, so they make a plan that is more specific and targets that one smarter criminal, so to say. So the innate or the non-specific defenses, again, are very general. The body will try to do this regardless of what is trying to invade us. The adaptive or the specific defenses, that is the immune system, which is it's a lot more specific, and it targets one antigen. So these are the different lines that we have, where the first line of defense is actually to prevent the pathogen from entering the body. So that would be our mechanical barriers like healthy skin and mucous membranes. Well, let's say the pathogen, is able to break that first line of defense. So it found a wound or a tear in the skin and the mucous membrane, and now it entered the body. Well, that takes us to our second line. Those are chemical barriers, natural killer cells, inflammation, phagocytosis, and fever. Again, if both of those, don't work, or if it's a smarter organism, the body will go into this third line of defense mode, and those are your immunity, whether it's cellular or humoral immune response. So in this portion, again, we're going to talk about the first and second line of defense, and then the next video would be about the third line. So let's talk about the mechanical barriers. Remember, again, it has to be healthy, intact skin and mucous membranes. Those perform a mechanical barrier preventing pathogens from entering. Once there is a cut somewhere, that mechanical barrier is no longer there. Again, it is considered the first line. If that doesn't work, and now that the pathogen has invaded the body is going to move on to the second line of defense. So what are other examples of mechanical barriers? So for example, the epidermis as it sloughs off. Remember when we talked about the skin, we said that there are the keratinized cells that we slough off as we move around. Okay, that is going to remove some of the superficial bacteria that comes in contact with skin. The ciliated epithelium in the respiratory tract, that is also going to try to trap and get rid of some pathogens. Our hair, eyelashes, eyebrows, all of that traps pathogens and prevents it from entering, maybe through the orbit, for example. Tears, saliva, and urine, all those, again, wash away microorganisms as well. Now, we also have species resistance. Species resistance is very interesting because, let me explain it first and then explain why it's so interesting. Well, species resistance refers to the fact that certain species are resistant to diseases that affect other species, meaning that diseases that could affect, let's say, certain animals do not affect us humans because of species resistance. And it's interesting because these barriers are starting to break. We have now found that pathogens are very smart and they were able to mutate and evolve, where now things that were confined to animals are now moving on and being able to invade and affect humans. So for example, swine flu, avian flu, and so on. Now, chemical barriers, and remember these are all now your second line of defenses. Chemical barriers, for example, enzymes that are found in our body fluids. For instance, pepsin, which is one of the gastric juice enzymes. Remember that digests protein. And a lot of the pathogens that try to enter us do have protein coats and so on. So pepsin can help in their digestion. Lysozyme is an enzyme that is found in tears, and those again can try to destroy different microorganisms. Interferon, that blocks viral replication, which is the division of viruses, and it also helps against defending us from tumors. So it acts against growth of tumors. Interferons is getting a lot of attention these days because of its ability to block viral replication. And you will find that anything within the immune system that deals with viruses also deals with tumors because, they are kind of work in the same way. And like I said, when it comes to bacteria, we have tons of antibiotics. And for the most part, bacterial infections, we are able to treat them, except for nowadays, we have now the emergence of these super bacteria, okay? But overall, bacteria were at least under control. What we're kind of worried about now are the emergence of these super bacteria on one hand, and on the other hand is the emergence of these viral infections. And because interferons blocks viral replication, there's a lot of research that is happening now on that. Defensins are peptides that are made by the granulocytes, so neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils, and they help in defending our body, hence the name defensin, by making little holes in the cell membrane of pathogens. So when you destroy the cell membrane, you have you've killed that pathogen. Collectins are proteins that are made against different pathogens, and the thought of these proteins, what they do is they kind of they round up all of the bacteria or all of the yeast to make it easier for the immune system to attack it. So instead of having kind of gathered or scattered throughout the body, when you collect them with these collectin proteins and stick them together, it makes it easier to get rid of. Now, complement system is a whole group of proteins that are found in the plasma and in other body fluids. It is pretty much inflammation on steroids. It stimulates a very strong inflammatory response. It attracts lots of phagocytic cells. It enhances and increases the phagocytosis. Natural killer cells, that's another item on your second line of defense. These are a very small population of the lymphocytes. They're different than your B and T lymphocytes. And they defend us against viruses and cancer cells. So again, you always see that correlation between what defends us against viruses will also defend us against cancer cells. These natural killer cells are more aggressive in their approach. They are going to make holes in the cell walls through a chemical known as perforins. So these perforins make perforations or holes in the cell membrane of pathogens. And natural killer cells can also enhance or increase the inflammatory process. So when it comes to viruses and cancer cells at this point, you have interferons and you have natural killer cells. Now you have the inflammation response. The inflammation is redness, swelling, warmth and pain. And to remember that, you can use the mnemonic RSVP, but change it into RSWP, which is redness, swelling, warmth, and pain. And it is mainly due to the following. So you have the blood vessels that dilate. That dilation of blood vessels is going to bring in a lot of blood, hence the swelling and the redness and the heat. That increases the capillary permeability, so you'll find a lot of fluid that is now leaking out of the capillaries. That fluid has, lots of the white blood cells. Remember, your neutrophils are your first responders. So because of the dilation of the blood vessels, you'll find that the tissue becomes red, swollen, warm, and painful. Then you have your white blood cells that come into the region. These white blood cells are going to start the process of phagocytosis. They are going to kill bacteria or whatever the pathogen that is there. There is going to be cellular debris because of the cells that were infected are also killed within the process. They definitely can be damaged. And that leads to the formation of pus. So pus is nothing but the white blood cells with the dead bacterial cells and cellular debris. Tissue fluid contain a lot of these clotting factors are going to also seep into the area, leading to blood clots with these little threads of fibrin in order to keep the inflammation kind of like in this one area, not spread. Fibroblasts also come in. Fibroblasts are cells that are going to deposit and make a fibrous connective tissue. So think of that abscess that has pus caused by the white blood cells, and it is surrounded by a fibrous capsule, because of the action of fibroblasts. So that again is a way the body keeps the infection confined to one area instead of it spreading throughout the body. Phagocytes become active in the inflammatory process. These are going to, again, phagocytose or eat up and engulf the different pathogens and the cellular debris. And then you have cells that have to start dividing in order to replace the older or the injured cells. Another innate defense is phagocytosis, which is, again, as you guys should know at this point, is pretty much the engulfing of the foreign particles or the engulfing of the cellular debris. The most active phagocytic cells are your M&Ms, which are your monocytes and macrophages and neutrophils. Monocytes and macrophages are the same thing. They are together, they are known as your mononuclear phagocytic system, or the reticuloendothelium system, where monocytes are the name of the cells when they're inside of the blood vessel. When it leaves the blood vessels into the interstitial tissue, it becomes these highly active macrophages. Macrophages can be either fixed within the tissue, or they can be free-floating throughout different tissues. And how do these phagocytic cells know that there is damage? How do they know where the damage is in the body or where the infection is? That is because damaged tissue or damaged cells produce different chemicals, and that is a process known as chemotaxis, where these chemicals pretty much call in, they act like red flags, telling the macrophages and calling them to the damaged area. Fever is another innate defense. So we tend to think of fever as something that we want to treat, but it actually helps the body defend itself. So a fever happens because either a viral or a bacterial infection stimulates lymphocytes. Lymphocytes then produce a chemical known as interleukin-1. Interleukin-1 changes the thermostat. It changes the set point of temperature in the hypothalamus. So it raises the thermoregulatory set point. Interleukin is the name of the chemicals where lymphocytes or white blood cells communicate together. So inter would be in between your white blood cells communication. So there are lots of interleukins. Interleukin-1 is responsible for fever. It is also known as the endogenous pyrogen. So why what does a fever do to our body? Well, first off, it increases the phagocytic activity. It inhibits microbial growth. So a lot of bacteria and viruses can grow and multiply at our normal body temperature. So if you elevate the body temperature, that could lead to the killing of the bacteria or viruses. It also leads to something very peculiar where it causes the liver and spleen to take up iron. So although this seems like it has no relationship, but it actually prevents the bacteria and fungi from using iron. And bacteria and yeast infections, they need iron in order to perform their normal metabolic processes. So if you prevent them, or if you remove that iron from them, that is effectively going to kill them. So again, fever, one of the very hard things to do is to convince parents or caregivers that a low-grade fever is good for your child. You want to give them something to lower their fever, their temperature, if it is too high. Now, the adaptive defenses would be in a separate video.